Dude, my feed is full of politics.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah. You ever notice, I don't know if it's the same for you, but at night, my feed is full of conspiracy theory, fear mongering. And then in the morning, it's full of like entrepreneur, creator, motivational stuff. Is it like that for you?
Dude, you know what? I haven't really been on Twitter lately. But I will say this. The feed is a little nauseous right now. It makes me nauseous.
Yeah.
Just what's going on with politics. And, you know, it's so weird. People, they still get sucked into the whole two-party system, right? They're like, Biden, look at Biden. He's an old man with dementia. This is why we need to vote for Trump. Trump will save us.
Yeah, Trump's going to be different. Yeah. But what's funny is like, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. Like, I see past the two-party system and all that. But like, when I stop to pay attention to politics every few months, I naturally will gravitate towards, oh, this will be better. Like, oh my God, we really can't vote for him again or whatever. When the reality is like, nothing changes. It's all just a sham.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
But I'm saying I'm someone aware of it, and I'll still get drawn into like one of the camps.
Sure. That's how I was in 2020, right? I kind of already... So I didn't vote in 2016. I was like, I'm never going to vote again because I'm just like... I saw the scam in politics.
Took you that long, Michael?
Yeah. And so 2020 came around, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to vote because... things are just too crazy with COVID and everything happening.
My vote, yeah.
It's
gonna matter.
Yeah, and so I got sucked back into it, and then I swore I'm like never getting involved in that shit again.
I never voted after I voted for Obama in 2008 or whatever.
Wow.
That was my last time I voted. It was the second time, actually the first time. I voted for George W. Bush, I think it's 2002 or something.
That's interesting.
Just to piss off my friends in high school. I didn't give a fuck.
You wanted to be like the fucking outlier?
Well, because all my friends, we listened to punk rock and like Fat Mike from like NoFX.
Mm-hmm.
Like we listened to all these like punk bands, and they were all like, "Oh, fuck George Bush," and I was like, fuck you guys, like, let's go George Bush.
You just wanted to be the contrarian? Or
yeah, what? I was 16 or whatever, you know. But no, then I voted for Obama because by that point I realized, I saw everything happening. And I was like, oh, well, Obama's going to be different. And I feel like I speak for many people when I say this of like my generation. Like we were all like, oh, Obama, it's going to be different. And then it took a few years and we're like, oh, it's all the same.
So,
and that was it.
I did not fall for that scam, that's for sure. I remember being very...
You got a few years on me.
Well, look, you stopped voting earlier than I did. That's impressive. No wonder you're making fun of me. But yeah, I saw Obama and I saw him sitting there with George Bush, and they were all in unison, like in agreement about the bailouts.
Yeah.
In 2008. And I was like, how is this guy different? Like they're all just the uni party, right? They're just all part of the same club and we're not in it, and they're going to bail out the banks, and they're going to print a lot of money, and they're going to debase the currency, and they're going to devalue our standard of living because that's what politicians do. And so I saw the writing on the wall early on with Obama, and that's what led me to Ron Paul. So.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, if we talk about Ron Paul, yeah. Had I been more, I signed out. I mean, even with Obama, right? I was still just one of those people, or with George W. Bush for that sake. Like, I didn't know shit. Mm-hmm. I was just voting because that's what you do. Like, you vote for Obama because, you know, the other guys are bad.
Yeah.
And I have friends and I like cousins, whatever, that like still recently, I think it was 2021, we were talking about COVID stuff, and there was the recall election in California, and there was that black guy running that they were calling the black face of white supremacy. Who's that guy? He's a radio host. He was running against Gavin Newsom, and he was a Republican.
He just did a podcast with Zuby, I think. I forgot his name.
Yeah. But anyway, like I was
Larry Elder.
Yeah, Larry Elder. Yeah. And I was like, that'd be really cool if he won, right? And I remember talking to my like one of my cousins were on a walk or something. He's like, oh, well, we can't vote for him because he's not a Democrat. And he had no idea about anything political. It was just, but he would go vote and he would vote Democrat because that's just what lines. You do. Yeah. It's just what you do. You don't vote for them. Yeah. And like the irony of it is just, I mean, the fact that, I mean, Joe Rogan always talked about the black face of white supremacy. Like, that's what they called him in the commercials. Yeah, the political commercials.
It's becoming a parody of itself. Look, man, we just jumped into this conversation, but I think we should somehow introduce this podcast. What do you think?
It just feels so natural. Look at this studio, ladies and gentlemen. Can we get the wide shot, please?
Yeah, let's get the wide shot.
Even though the wide shot's a...
it's looking at me.
It's looking at Michael.
We're working on the equipment, people.
Ladies and gentlemen, and no, that's it, because there's only two genders. Look at this. Look at this.
Look, hey, this actually looks great. I'm looking at the live stream right now on Twitter, and it looks great.
Except for my lighting, it looks great. Like it's all a white, it's a white wall behind me, and then I'm just a shadow.
All right, so let's introduce this. Okay, so first of all, we did a first test podcast, and it was just basically a plastic table and us putting the equipment together to get familiar with how everything is supposed to be, I guess, set up. And today, young Matt and we went out and we got some actual tables that
conference tables
that work great as podcast tables. So now we've upped our game a little bit, and we're becoming much more official by the day.
Dude, we got 3 cameras up in here. We got 3 mics, but only 2 are plugged in. We have a producer back there with a video mixer. Say hi, Matt. Can you zoom in?
What's up?
Can you zoom in on yourself?
Let's try.
Check this out, people. Check this out.
Look at this.
Oh no, now it's tracking you.
It's tracking me.
Hold up.
What up? So these cameras are like gesture activated. So every time I talk with my hands, look at it zooms in. Whoa, what up? That's kind of cool though. If we learn to play with that, it's actually pretty neat.
Young Matt was able to get a zoom in.
I see that. Yeah. Cool. That's awesome.
And then it went to you. It's pretty cool.
It looks cool. It's zooming fast. Yeah. And it's tracking.
Once we get this all set up,
there's no stopping us.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And we are having, this is our second bottle of wine that we are sharing amongst ourselves here.
After a very light dinner.
So we're kind of like, yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know if we want to keep talking about the elections and stuff. But during that light dinner, is why we got inspired to say, hey, let's do a recording. Because we were talking about the amorphous blob. We were talking about it, some guy you listen to and how he puts it. Do you want to introduce that?
I don't know. Let's see if I can spitball it. So yeah, the basic idea is that we live in this reality bubble, okay? And that we are spiritual beings here on this earth, and we're here for some type of reason, right? We're here to discover something about, I guess, ourselves, and that there is an entity or entities on in this reality bubble that are trying to stop us from growing spiritually, right? And it manifests itself through all types of different avenues, one of them being the political avenue. And there are people that are caught in this reality bubble, and they can't escape it. So it's similar to this idea is similar to the Matrix, right? You're just in the Matrix, and you're just following the program, and you're like a fly trapped into this kind of light, and you can't escape it. But yeah, you know what? That's as far as I can go.
Let's parse it out for a second, though, because I've had a philosophy on this before. So we're saying, when we say reality bubble, are we talking about a collective reality bubble that we all share, or are we talking about individual reality bubbles?
It's a collective reality bubble.
So it's a collective reality bubble.
But so it's there is a collective reality bubble, but then there is the idea is you have your own individual reality as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And so then if we zoom out and zoom in, and then because really the collective reality bubble is essentially the consensual hallucination that we experience as spiritual beings in 3D carbon-based life reality, right?
Yes, but okay, so the thing is that people are caught up in the consensual reality bubble, right?
Exactly.
And so they're not creating their own reality.
Exactly.
And so and that consensual reality bubble is controlled by a different entity, and it's leading. So if your reality is the consensual reality bubble, right? He calls it the outer ring or something like that, right? If that is your reality, then you will be led astray by this kind of amorphous blob, right? Of dark energy, because that's what's controlling the outer reality bubble.
Because it plays on what creates the collective hallucination to begin with, which is our physiology, which is fear pathways in our brain, like from evolutionary like reasons that we survived for so many hundreds of millions of years, is because we had fear, and so we'd run away from things. But now we don't live in that same kind of environment, and so we have fear like on Twitter and we see it and it brings us into that reality bubble.
Yes, so this consensual reality bubble, right? What was that?
Camera beeped. Which camera beeped?
Is this one still following me? How's this happening, man?
I guess you're waving.
Okay. We gotta turn off these hand gestures. I feel like I kind of feel like I'm in the Matrix with these.
There's
things
also
here.
something kind of cool about it, because if someone's on a cool riff, you get two angles on you.
That's true.
You know?
That's true. They're waving their hands and stuff. You're like, this camera's like, get on him. Okay, so going back to what you said, you know, this consensual reality bubble and the entity that controls it feeds off of controversy and fear. And so that's why you see all of this on Twitter and stuff like that. And the people that engage in it only fuel this amorphous blob of dark energy.
And they monetize it. Like, people do it because they can get paid to do it. They can get attention.
All the incentive structures are to feed this dark energy, you know,
and
where in order to combat it, or in order to, it's just to ignore it.
You have to opt out.
Opt out.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That goes back to the sovereignty, right? Is like knowing where you end and the world, the universe around you begins. You create those boundaries. We create them in every moment. We choose whether to be like, oh, this dude's all pissed off at me. Do I take it personal? Like, no, he's just having a bad day.
Yeah.
Same thing. All this stuff is happening all around the world. Like, that's not me. It doesn't have to be my reality. And so to like simplify it, the way I see it, is like, we have these reality bubbles, all my movements for the camera here. We have these reality bubbles that we can kind of like jump around, and that we can acknowledge they exist. We can choose to play in them. We can let them stress us out and like freak us out and ruin our sleep and make our relationships difficult because we're always like worried. Or we can choose to exist as creators of our reality.
Yes.
And what does that mean? We create. You use your creativity. You're always doing something. You're making things. Yet, in the amorphous blob collective reality we're talking about here, what do they encourage?
They encourage
consumption.
Consumption, yeah.
Consume information, consume food, consume alcohol, consume. And not simply for the economical reasons that, like, yeah, you have to pay for it. You're paying using your life force, which you have to work for in order to make the exchange. But because then you're filling yourself up with things that just aren't you. Whereas when you're just creating all day, when you're living out of you, you'll notice you aren't even that hungry as we're meant to think. Like 3 meals a day is kind of crazy. You know, if you look at our,
I haven't had one decent meal
I
today.
know, that's what I know. You hardly eat at all, and I think it's a good point.
Yeah.
But like, we don't need to be consuming like watching TV or watching movies like every night is what just the routine. It's like, oh, you turn on Netflix, you turn on that like every night. Whereas you could create your own little world, or even reading is a form of creating your own world, because you're looking at the text and you're forced to, you naturally create the world from those words.
Well, this brings us back to our mission right here, right? The reason I'm here, well, number one is to like live a much more aligned life, and I feel like El Salvador provides that, but also to inspire other people and to help them, right? If we've gone on this journey and we've gone on this path, we're like, maybe we're 1 or 2, 3 steps ahead and we can point people in the right direction. But the idea is for people to escape the matrix in a way, right? And start crafting their own reality and not living by the standards and the just the roadmap that, you know, conventional society, amorphous blob, has laid out for them.
And that's the thing. Like, you have to do it yourself. Like, did you see the new Matrix movie? I just watched it for the first time the other day. Speaking of
New Matrix movie, the one that's been out for a few years,
like 2020. Yeah, I finally got around to it. Well, I heard it was horrible, but I also heard it made fun of itself. So I watched it, and it did make fun of itself, which was great. But one thing I want to point out was in this movie there was a few characters, including the black Agent Smith guy, and then the Asian girl. They had red pilled themselves. Like, they didn't have to take a red pill. And even when they like brought it up to Neo or someone again, they were like, look, you taking it is just a symbolic. Like they came out of the Matrix on their own. And so like in the first movies, like he had to take the pill, they had to rescue him. But my point here is that like, no one needs to save you. No one's gonna save you. Like, you got to save yourself. You know, you red pill yourself and take yourself out of it, and you create that path to move forward in your own way to create your own reality.
Let me ask you something, because some people will actively resist, right? Like red pilling themselves, right? Or when they go down that path of like awakening to their potential, to their power, they get frightened or scared.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And so I guess, what do you think is the spark that allows people to red pill themselves? Is it external? Is it internal?
I mean, I think Bitcoin does it for a lot of people, but I think my mom's been getting black pilled or red pilled, whatever you want to call it, because
black pilled. Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
red pilled is kind of you've awoken to the fact that all these conventional narratives that you've been led to believe, and maybe you have even tied your identity to, are wrong, right? And so you've become red pilled. You see reality.
And what's black pilled?
Black pilled is where you see reality and you see no hope.
Oh.
And white.
But it's almost kind of the same. But it's just deciding there's no hope.
Yeah, you become nihilistic.
But if you're red pilled, is there hope?
Red pill is just you become aware, right?
So it's red, then black, or orange. With orange pill is there's hope.
There's hope. There's also white pilled. So the white pilled is kind of the red pill, but like you look at the future and you're like, okay, it's optimistic. Like, you know, things are not what I was told they are, but people are waking up and there's a much more optimistic path for humanity. Or at least some portion of humanity. You know, the way I see it now is I was black pilled. So I was red pilled. Then I was
starts with the red pill.
Yeah. Then I was black pilled.
The gateway pill.
Then now I see it more as like almost a gray pill, because I think that there's going to be a path for those that have chosen to awaken and have chosen to, you know, take responsibility for their lives and craft their reality. And for those people, there's a path towards a prosperous and free life. But I'm also aware that there's a majority of people, the masses, you know, that are just going to follow the program. But you know what freed me was that realization, because prior to that, I was always trying to like, I was controlled by those people because I was trying to wake them up. I was like, don't you see? Look at Ron Paul. Look at Bitcoin. Look at this.
Right.
And they don't want it. They don't want it. And so it's like, imagine trying to like save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And so it was very, I felt very controlled by that. And then once you realize that there's just a mass of people that are just going to follow the program and they're just going to, you know, they don't want to wake up. They want to be in the matrix. And you're just like, oh, okay, cool. Then I'm just going to live my life and I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to build my reality.
Well, so you asked, like, what is that spark? And I think we approach like a time where there's more and more sparks. So I think the bailouts of 2008, 2009, that was a spark. I mean, that's the spark that prompted Bitcoin, right? Then COVID was a big one. I mean, to hear my dad saying something's fishy about this, who's the most anti-conspiracy theorist guy ever. Like, to hear him saying that, I'm like, all right, cool. And then now the war, Israel-Palestine, that's got my mom getting red-pilled and starting to understand how the world really works.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you know,
I wonder about this because it seems like this amorphous blob of dark black energy is starting to lose control.
Because it's starting to reveal itself.
Yes.
And people are like, whoa, I don't want no part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, people are not, I mean, we choose ignorance because it's bliss, right? Because it's easier to just be ignorant. But when it gets so far shoved in our face, or up our ass for that matter, that we can no longer ignore it, then we're like, all right, we have decisions to make here.
Yeah.
And I think most people still choose the thing they think is right. I think most people do that because you can only choose the fear-based decision for so long. You can only do it for so long. And I think a lot of us during COVID, for example, going along with all the fucking masks and all that shit, we chose it, but the whole time we were like, God, why do I keep choosing this? You know, like, ugh. And that just fuels that fire within to be like, no, I don't choose this anymore.
Yeah, eventually, right? Eventually, people just, they reach a breaking point.
Yeah, I think everyone has it.
It's like, okay, I'm going to tolerate this nonsense. It's fine. You know, whatever. Fine. I get it.
It'll pass.
People are hysterical. And then
it keeps going. It doesn't end.
And then
2 weeks.
And then you reach I mean, for those people that have, you know, some semblance of autonomy and independent thought, eventually there's a breaking point where you're like, I can't do this anymore and I don't care what the consequences are. I'm not going along with this.
And everyone does have that.
Do you think?
Yes, everyone has that. It's innately human. However, some of us have thicker shells to break.
You know what? I really want to hear young Matt's perspective on all of this. How can we get him a microphone? Matt, do you have any thoughts on this?
It picks it up, yeah.
Can you hear him up decently?
Push it a little forward more. Here, we can do both.
It picks it up well, I think.
Put them both. Double mic.
2 mics, yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. So what specifically do you mean? Like,
Whatever. If you got, do you have any thoughts related to any of this?
I mean, yeah, it's certainly very easy to go along with the flow and even like go to university and stuff and just, you know, hope to retire well. But I've been just trying to like figure out what do I want, like consciously asking myself what's my intuition and trying to like develop my intuition, and I believe that takes a human really far if they're in touch with their intuition.
What red pilled you?
What red pilled me? It's a combination of starting to like trying to improve myself first with physical exercise, and that was sort of the start, recognizing that I can get better and I can improve if I want. And also, like, the biggest thing was Bitcoin, and that revealed like the fiat scam
Show everyone your shirt.
Shirt, yeah. So yeah, let's see if we can zoom a little bit.
Yeah. I love this, bro.
Times.
Bro, we're
Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks.
Which is inscribed on the first block? Was that the Genesis block it was inscribed in? Yeah, it's the very first block.
Yo, so I retweeted something yesterday. My tweets are becoming far and few between now. But James Lindsay, he talked about, or he tweeted something. I'll just read it verbatim. When people suddenly realize they've been lied to, they immediately wonder what else they've been lied about, right? And for me, my red pill, I would say my red pill was learning how money works, right? And it wasn't Bitcoin. At that time, Bitcoin wasn't around, but it was, the 2008, financial crisis and the preceding bank bailouts. And not only that, but seeing the blatant corruption that was occurring. And that sparked my curiosity. Now, prior to that, I had always been, my thoughts were always unconventional and my thought process. Like I questioned 9/11 the week of the event, right? And I was like, dude.
But of course.
Yeah. And so it's not like I was a normie, so to say. And all of a sudden, like the 2000, but it did lead me to go deeper, right? Like what happened? Just because I had just graduated from Florida State University with an accounting and finance degree, and I was taught that, hey, the Federal Reserve is in control of the economy. They're there to backstop, all the banks if something should go wrong. And plus they have all these mandates to keep inflation at 2% and keep employment at this level and so forth. And then the financial collapse happens.
And the mandates don't matter.
Yeah. And everything goes to shit. And I'm like, I just graduated. I just learned how the Fed is in charge of the economy. And this is not supposed to happen. The reason that they're there is so this type of stuff doesn't happen. And so that led me to, that sparked my curiosity and made me investigate what was going on. That led me to Peter Schiff. Then that led me to Ron Paul. Then that led me to G. Edward Griffin and the creature from Jekyll Island. And then when I learned about how the Federal Reserve was founded and how our money works, bro, I had a visceral reaction. Like I was like upset, bro. I was pissed. And I said, man, I got to just reorient my life to be, I just saw that system as evil. Like I was like, man, this is messed up. Because all of a sudden, it's like you talk about, you talk about an ayahuasca trip, or you talk about like we were talking about Dune earlier, and like how, Paul can see these like visions, right? In Dune, he drinks this, I don't know what he drinks, but he drinks this thing, and all of a sudden all the pathways of its different realities, like he becomes aware of them, right? And it was like that. It was like, man, I was able to see how centralized money printing has impacted our reality, has impacted society, right? I was able to see all the devastation, all the malinvestment, right? All the poverty, all the policies. And I was just like, dude, this is evil. It's like literally sucking your life force away from society. It's a siphon. And so anyways, I just so going back to my original point was like in a similar fashion, Bitcoin is the red pill for a lot of people, because they realize once they understand how money works, they start to question everything, even like history, right? All the narratives that they've been told. And so, yeah.
So I want to share my story along the similar story, but you got into Bitcoin pretty early on, right? So while you were learning about all this, you had, for the most part, known about Bitcoin too, right?
No, this was prior to Bitcoin.
All of that was prior to Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Because for me, it's really bizarre. Like, and I had a lot of like, I guess, remorse, no regrets, but I had a lot of ego involved with everything. Because
I think, can I just stop you there real quick?
Yeah.
I think regret is okay because regret is the pain that we need to learn and grow. You know what I mean? So anyways, I'll just leave it at that. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, I'd always questioned everything, you know, like I said earlier, like I listened to a lot of punk rock and like, you know, that by Fat Mike, No Effects, like listening to songs like I Want to See the Constitution Burn, you know, in high school, like listening to music like that, right? And listening to the Vandals and like...
Did you know what all that meant?
Anarchy Burger, Murder the Government. Well, I looked into it, right? I had the internet, you know, and so like me and my friends would like look into that stuff, but we were in high school, right? It was still more important to like learn to talk to girls and stuff. But we listened to that music and so it was kind of embedded in me. But then in college, like I started getting into the 9/11 stuff with some friends and watching the Zeitgeist films. And that's when I was like, okay, everything is definitely off. You know, and then I studied French and French literature in college, and my final dissertation was about how the United States is occupied by a mysterious force very similar to how the Nazis occupied France during World War II, because that was a big cultural thing for the French people back then.
What was the mysterious force?
Well, I didn't say I basically called it corporatism, but what I'm alluding to, what the story I'm trying to tell is that throughout my own history of being red pilled, I knew it was the centralization of money. This was it, but I didn't have my finger on it until I finally learned.
You were skirting
Bitcoin.
around it.
I even learned about Bitcoin in 2014, and I still didn't get it. So after college, I was red pilled from society and government and all that. I said, "Fuck it! I don't want to work. I'm not going to give my life for money. Like money, it's blood. It's war, right? Didn't want anything to do with money. I lived broke. I backpacked." Let me just go through the story. In 2014, and so I got away from everything. You know, I got away from everything, and I created.
Can I ask you something? Clarification?
Sure. Yeah.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
So did you like correlate, I guess, all the corruption and that you saw in the United States and the whole system with money itself?
Just money. Yeah. Money. I didn't realize it was because of fiat money. I just thought it was money. Either that or, you know, gray aliens that, you know, were actually our politicians. But I wasn't sure. But no, I just said it was money. So I was like, I don't want to have anything to do with money. Fuck it. So I lived, you know, I traded my time for room and board. You know,
Was it like basically videos. Barter?
Yeah, I bartered my way around the world with very little money for like 10, 12 years. I was telling young Matt about it the other day, and you can't really do that in the same way. I was in the golden years for that. Anyway, so I did that, and I basically signed out of like everything, and it was great, right? And in 2014, I heard Andreas Antonopoulos on Joe Rogan, and I learned about Bitcoin. I was like, oh, cool. But I was still like, money, fuck money. In that episode, at least it didn't ring for me. He didn't talk about like why we really need Bitcoin to save society. He was talking about it like, oh, now the unbanked can be banked, you know? And I was like, who cares? You know, like money's the problem, right?
Yeah.
And so then I knew about Bitcoin. I bought my first Bitcoins like, you know, around $800, right? Like pretty early, and I was into it, and I didn't care. And I finally got into crypto when I learned about Ethereum in 2016 because I loved the technology. The DAO. I bought into the DAO. I lost money in the DAO, everyone. You know, those DAO tokens. But I liked the community building aspect of it, and that got me back into it. Then at the end of that bull run, 2018, the beginning of 2018, a friend of mine I was staying with in Hawaii, good friend of mine, he was a Bitcoiner, like full on, and he finally said the words I needed to hear. He's like, if everyone used Bitcoin, they couldn't fund the wars anymore. The endless wars. And it finally clicked. Like, this is it. That's the problem with money. It's not money itself. Money is a powerful technology for communicating value.
Whoa, damn, that's it, man.
But fiat money is a fucking joke.
Well, fiat money distorts that communication mechanism.
More than distorts, it just destroys it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it was always so hard for me to even make money when I tried, and to try to like ask people, like, hey, you want to buy this from me, because the whole thing just felt wrong.
So so obviously your idea of money has changed.
Obviously.
Yeah, and so now how do you see it?
Oof. Well, at the moment, I'm just trying to get on my feet because I got 2 kids and stuff. And I'm trying to figure all that out.
Just the idea of money itself, right?
Oh, well, the idea of money is that it's an energy, or as Hormozy would call it, it's a game, right? I guess they call business a game, right? But money is just any other energy in the world. And throughout my time backpacking, nomading around as a hippie, I learned a lot about energy, whether that was personal, physical energy, or sexual energy, or the type of energy we put out into the world with our art projects, whatever it might be. I've explored energy a lot, and now I see that money is just another thing, and you can tap into it if you want to. I tapped into the energy of staying on people's couches for 10 years, and I learned how to do that, and I was wealthy in that department. I knew how to become really good friends with people for them to invite me to stay on their couch. I remember once I went on a trip up the coast to California, and I was like, I don't know where I'm going to stay. I'm not going to sleep in the car, but I'm going to go to this open mic and I'm going to find somewhere to stay. I took out my accordion, we played. By the end of the night, we're smoking cigarettes, drinking at the beach. They're like, oh, where are you staying tonight? I'm like, I'm not sure. Like, oh, come stay at my house. I'm like, great.
So you knew how to make couch surfing currency.
Yeah. Well, at that point, it was beyond the couch surfing program itself. It was just like the actual act of couch surfing. But like, my point is everything's an energy. You have to learn, if you want to play in it, you have to learn how to start playing with it. You got to learn how to tap into it. And so that's how I see money now. And that's how I'm learning to do what I need to do in this world now that I have kids.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah, dude.
Where else are we going with this conversation?
We've covered a lot of ground.
It was fun.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I'm being red pilled again, by the way, just to come back to that conversation real quick, like regarding history in this last like year. I never really wanted to question history that much. I know you always hear winners write the history books, but to the extent that is true, like to the extent of how much they rewrite things, and then the more you learn just about the world and how stories are told and narratives are passed down over time, and the pieces start to fall.
It's not that though. It is that, but here's what it was for me, and I think for a lot of people, it was COVID. It's like they were literally rewriting history in real time.
Oh, like, oh yeah, masks don't work, now masks work.
Yeah. And so it was like, shit, you just saw all the lying going on, right? By the mainstream media and by the like prevailing narratives. And you're like, dude, if they can just lie like this openly, like to the whole world.
Yeah.
What else have they lied about?
Obvious.
Yeah. And so for me, it's like, that's when I started to question, like, I don't even know history. Like, that's the way I roll. Like,
and you never will.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. We never will know what happened and all those things.
Yeah.
That's when I got introduced to like Charles Eisenstein. I think Charles Eisenstein or Eisenstein, whatever his first name is, excuse me. But
are you talking about...
But he's like this philosopher guy. No, Eisenstein. And there's other guys in this circle. But I was introduced to this idea of, World War III started in 2020. The battleground is our minds.
Oh, for sure.
That's what World War III is. And once I realized that, because it was obvious, like, wow, the real war here is they're fucking with our information, I thought, this has been happening for hundreds of years, at least since the development of mass media, maybe 100 years.
Yeah, Edward Bernays, right?
Yeah.
And the whole, like, you think about how sophisticated he was back then with the limited technology that he had, and was able to, like, basically shape the world to go into war, getting women to smoke cigarettes and all of that stuff. I mean, imagine what they have now with the algorithms that like literally can read your mind and like know you better than you know yourself. Like, who knows what kind of manipulation is happening on that level, right? Like it makes me want to not be on Twitter as much and social media
on anything. Yeah, totally. It's funny because like I'm on it again because I'm doing these daily vlogs. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing. But you noticed I was absent for a few months.
I think it's the way you use it is really the key, right? Like, again, we talk about consumption, right? What does Amorphous Blob want you to do? Consume, right? So you can live in a fear-based reality, which they control. So, but, you know, here's the thing. Here's the kicker, right? It's like anything. The good can prevail, right? Through the bad. And so we can use the same tools that the Amorphous Blob of dark energy uses in order to propagate positivity and goodness. And so, you know, I've made the conscious effort not to propagate negative energy. And we worked on this together, Jordan, remember? We're like, okay, what am I going to project out there into this world? What am I going to project to my followers? And we came up with a Venn diagram, and I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on that, and I'm not going to stray outside those lines. And I've been doing a pretty good job since that initial conversation that we've had. And so, you know, and what's that brought? What has that brought? I mean, that's brought young Matt over here.
Young Matt
as our producer. Not only that, but it's widened our circle of like-minded, you know, people. So I think that there's a lot of good that can happen from the connectivity of the internet and social media. It's just you can't get trapped in that web. You got to escape the web of fear, you know? The pull of the amorphous blob that wants to fucking like grab you and say, come here.
Here's what I think we should do. Okay. We should build a media empire based on these values.
I like it.
Yeah. I think that should be the ultimate goal.
Listen, all right, let's talk about, so we had a podcast with Tristan Scott, right?
Tristan Scott, what up, homie?
And one of the things that we talked about was like how we need to develop technology now that actually like empowers the individual, right? To take control of their life in a way that's healthy and like, I don't know what the right word is, but empowers them in personal sovereignty, right? Where, you know, he made the point that a lot of technology is there to enslave you, right? Is there to keep you addicted, is there to, and, you know, he was saying how a lot of the screens that we look at is like literally like, you know, like a fly trapped in a blue light.
Yeah. So a lot of this comes from, shout out to Anjan Kata, the CEO of Daylight. Like, this is their whole message, Daylight Computer Company. And I edit their videos. So it's like, I listen to this every day. But yeah, that blue light, what it does to your brain, and even if you think about it, when you get caught on your phone, you're like in a portal. Like, it takes you somewhere else. Whereas when you look at a book or a piece of paper or the Daylight computer, the tablet, it doesn't, you're still here. You're still in this reality. And so, yes, there's correspondence to the light spectrum, like a lot of blue light in the screens and a whole healthy spectrum of all the light from UV, red, to also blue in the normal, like bouncing off of paper. But what that happens in your brain is it takes you somewhere else and it's playing tricks on you. So then the algorithms start their manipulation. And it's like 10 times more powerful.
What does it activate? Different brain waves?
It activates different ways of thinking. It's like, and I don't think there's actual science on this. And if there is, I can try to find it. But like, it triggers your brain in different ways. Like, the blue light is crazy. And I have a whole spreadsheet.
All we got to do is look at the flies that get trapped in blue light, right? And you're like, look, all right, our brain has much more capacity and intelligence than a fly, but, you know, there's obviously something to it, right? Just from your observational, like, intelligence.
Dude, I have this Google sheet right here, which is like, it's a whole list of studies of showing all the harmful effects of blue light. There are hundreds of studies here. And you know what a lot of them say? I haven't even like really gone through it, but like, you know, blue light is a huge cause of diabetes.
No, did not.
Put it that way. Is that surprising to hear? Like, isn't diabetes to do with blood sugar and glucose and insulin and all that?
Is that why
like,
we're wearing blue blockers right now?
That's why I'm wearing them.
Yeah.
But like, blue light fucks with us so hardcore. And there's a lot of evidence now about it. Do you ever hear a word about it on the media?
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. But yeah, so their whole point is like, why don't we have technology that isn't fucking with us? Why don't we make computers? Yeah, sure, it doesn't have blue light. That's a great start. But why don't we use apps, you know, even like Nostr or Bitcoin, like software that actually really is meant to encourage us to be sovereign individuals?
Yeah.
And this is the new wave, right? Like, they have funding.
I don't know if it's the new wave, but it's definitely like an avenue that sovereign individuals can take.
Well, I mean, the fact that they're a startup with like some decent funding, I would say, I'm hoping it's the beginning of a trend. Like the fact that there's actually
a good trend, right?
It's a great trend.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is I don't know. I don't think it'll ever be a mainstream trend. Maybe, you know, like, but I do think that for those people that are conscious and awake, like it's definitely an avenue that they can take. Well,
this takes us full circle to the reality bubbles.
Yeah.
Is like, if those of us choosing to live in the reality bubble where no, we don't want to use blue light, we don't want to use these social media platforms, whatever, we're all just going to branch off and split off into our new reality bubble. And everyone else can stay in that one, and then survival of the fittest happens.
And that's what I mean by like the masses are going to do what they do, and then those people that are conscious and awake, they're going to figure out how to live and you know, live outside the matrix, and then also navigate the matrix at the same time too, right? Like we also have to live in this reality where, like, this material reality where we have to, you know, exist on Earth and get things and procreate. I don't know if procreate is the right word, but like acquire resources in order to live and build. And so we're going to have to be able to navigate in the matrix, but that's all going to, I think we're going to develop that skill set.
That's the one that always kills me, is like, I always think of like, oh cool, we changed the technology. Oh cool, we do this. Oh cool, we do that. Oh great, I still don't know how to make my own food. You know, oh, I still have to go to the grocery store to get my food. Like, that amorphous blob still owns the grocery stores.
Yeah, it's going to change, I think.
No, it changes, and we have to actively put our energy towards changing it. We have to go to the local farmer that's selling their beef. Yeah, we have to go to the local farmer selling their fruits and vegetables. Like,
we have to choose.
And it's sacrificing convenience, and it sucks.
Yeah.
We have to do it.
So some of it is sacrificing convenience, some of it is sacrificing excess. You know, I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of what we do now is, I don't know, it's excess. It's like
it's wasteful.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, I'm just going to live a simpler life. And I think, I don't know, man. I think that personally for me, the simpler life has been a lot more fulfilling.
Well, I tried to live one of the simplest life. No, I mean, I tried to live a simple life before I had a family, and I tried to live a simple life with a family. And, I mean, it just didn't work. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I have a subconscious drive to do something important. Mm-hmm. And that's why the simple life is hard. I mean, I guess, yeah, if we want to equate living here.
Okay,
look, we're in a podcast studio right now, man. We're not living a simple life.
Well, okay, let's, yeah. You
One
know
that we just built.
and so let's make a point. Then you're right. It's not a simple life. It's an essential life, right?
Okay.
Like the difference between simplicity and essentialism, right, is like, you know, I don't know, technology. And so we're just focusing on what's essential, or at least I am, right? In order to build what I want to build and pave my path in life and so forth. But I'm not going in excess of that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's not about the cars. It's not about the whatever, the material.
It's about the mission and what I need
Yeah.
in order to accomplish that mission.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm focused on, as opposed to like, yeah, all the other like egotistical drivers.
Sure. Yeah. I guess, I mean, back to the food thing, right? It's just like, sometimes you got to draw a line and just like, all right, here's what I'm deciding to care about and prioritize, and here's what I'm not.
So it's exactly.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what sovereignty is, right? I see sovereignty more as becoming aware of the trade-offs that are happening, right? Aware of where you're trading independence for dependencies, and being okay with that, right? Like, and being conscious and aware of those, as opposed to complete independence, right? Because complete independence is hard, bro, right? And
we're not meant to be completely independent.
Exactly.
We're meant to live in tribes, you know? Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, I need people in order to live a prosperous, decent life. And so who are these people that I'm going to form relationships with in order to, acquire these resources? So over here in El Salvador, right, there's, Beef Back Better, where you can get your beef that's local and grass-fed. So you make that conscious decision that that's going to be local beef provider. Also with milk, right? Or you just develop these relationships with different vendors, different producers, and so you get kind of like you build your network, and that's your sovereignty, right? Like, versus just going along with the program and just buying the goods and the services that are provided by the mainstream.
Yeah, totally.
Anyways, dude, where we at? How we feeling?
I think this is the end.
Yeah.
Let's check the chat. We got any questions? Got any comments? How many viewers? Live from El Salvador, 142 views. What's up, guys? Brian Beauchamp.
Yeah,
wow, that's crazy. 140.
Well, you know what? I think this was an absolute success, given that we were not even going to do a podcast. But I like it. It's another rep another rep.
I think it's good to have multiple outlets, like we have a more structured show in the morning, building El Salvador, and then whenever we feel like doing this at night, we're just hanging out and talking. I think it's great.
Yeah, I can't wait to get young Matt a microphone. I feel like he's gonna add so much value to this conversation. I want to hear what he has to say about the fucking shit that we're ripping off of.
I can't wait till we get proper lighting in here and the curtains. Like, this is just gonna get better and better.
Yeah, dude. I mean, what is this? This is third day of Sovereignty Studios, and we already got an official table.
Like, we have an official table. Yeah.
We're killing it, bro. So what I told Matt is that, every day, if we focus on one thing that pushes the ball forward, like, by the time we look back on it, like, if you think about it just in a month, 30 days, 30 things that push the ball forward, like, you're just that's progress, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, day 3, look where we're at. I mean, each day it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, we started with a plastic table, right?
Plastic table with, we can see our faces in this episode. The other episode, there were too many tripods in the way.
Yeah, even going through the process of troubleshooting and figuring, like, look, we didn't have one of the cameras that were working today, and now it's working because we figured out that the cable was bad. But you have to go through the process. How long did that take us to figure out?
2 cables were bad.
2 cables. And how long did that take us to figure out?
An hour.
Probably a little longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have to, it's just, you have to do the work in order to progress. And so, yeah, and we're doing it.
We're doing it.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. It was a fun time. And we'll see you, I don't know, maybe even tomorrow.
Maybe, yeah.
We don't have a schedule yet, but we're working on it. All right. Peace.
I love the